This offshore oil rig is 16 floors high, as wide as two football fields, and weighs astonishingly more than an aircraft carrier. This oil platform, called Appomattox, currently sits in the Gulf of Mexico, 130 kilometers off the coast of Louisiana in North America. But its journey began thousands of miles away in South Korea a few years ago, where thousands of workers and engineers were busy building the oil platform. After 7 years of hard work, when Appomattox was finally completed, the engineers faced a challenge they were facing for the first time in their careers. This two-story structure had to be transported from South Korea to the Gulf of Mexico, and for this purpose, the world's largest marine transport vessel was commissioned. Lifting the Appomattox oil platform and placing it on the vessel was a task that would take at least 7 days. But suddenly they received news that a storm had formed in the Pacific Ocean, and this storm had assumed the form of a super typhoon. A typhoon of this magnitude only forms once every 20 years. Traveling at a speed of 315 kilometers per hour, this typhoon could strike the South Korean coast anytime in the next 7 days. And we all know that when a super typhoon strikes, it doesn't leave without causing damage. The challenge for the workers, engineers, and transport experts was to complete 7 days' worth of work in just 3. This meant that if the Epimetheus oil platform wasn't lifted from the shipyard, loaded onto this marine vessel, and sent off within 3 days, years of hard work could be wasted in an instant. This was a matter that shook the entire management from top to bottom. This oil platform was Shell Oil Company's largest project, and as such, they had no room for even the slightest error. To avoid the super typhoon and ensure Epimetheus's departure ahead of schedule, it was crucial to complete the remaining work. For this, an extra army of workers was called in. The workers worked day and night, preparing Epimetheus for the transport as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, management, in collaboration with the Meteorological Administration, was monitoring the super typhoon's movement. They held out hope that the super typhoon might change its direction, but their hopes were dashed when they learned that the typhoon was moving straight from the Pacific Ocean towards South Korea. The army of workers worked tirelessly and completed all the work on Epimetheus within just 3 days. And now it was time to lift this massive structure and place it on the floating dock. The weight of this entire structure was said to be an astonishing 41,000 tons. Even the construction of Burj Khalifa did not use so much steel as was used on this oil platform. With the help of huge hydraulic jacks, it was pushed inch by inch and placed on the floating dry dock. With the help of tugboats, the floating dock was towed away from the shipyard where it was to be loaded onto the marine vessel. This is the world's largest marine transport vessel, capable of easily carrying a weight of 98,000 tons, and on it the Appomattox was to travel to the other side of the world, the Gulf of Mexico. The next morning, the Appomattox was unloaded from the floating dock. Now, the oil platform began to float on water for the first time. With the help of tugboats, the platform was pulled to deeper water where the marine vessel was already waiting. Meanwhile, the super typhoon was rapidly approaching South Korea, and a sword of Damocles was hanging over the management's head. Now, the super typhoon was just 48 hours away, and as it drew closer, its signs began to appear in the ocean. The winds and waves in the ocean were increasing, signaling danger for the Appomattox. The next moment was extremely critical. Loading the oil platform onto the vessel is a very complicated task. For this, first the vessel inhales water from its internal water tanks, due to which it goes underwater. Then tugboats pull the oil platform and take it above the vessel, and finally the vessel pumps out the water again. due to which the vessel rises upwards. But this work is not as easy as you saw in this animation. For this work, it is very important that the sea is calm, because if this work is done in waves, then Appomattox will not be able to load on the vessel in the correct alignment, and this thing can be dangerous for both the vessel and Appomattox. The ocean was extremely rough due to the super typhoon. The waves and strong winds made this task impossible. Meanwhile, time was passing rapidly, and the entire team's stress level had risen significantly. Fortunately, the meteorological department granted the team only 2 hours the next morning, during which there was a chance the ocean would be calm. If the task wasn't accomplished within these 2 hours, there would be no further opportunity. The super typhoon was now only 36 hours away. As announced early that morning, the ocean was completely calm. At the first opportunity, the oil platform was pulled onto the vessel, which lifted it from the water and loaded it onto itself. Hours before the super typhoon, the Appomattox finally managed to depart South Korea. Shell had completed the first challenge by protecting its oil platform from the super typhoon. But that didn't mean there wouldn't be any more challenges ahead. After several months of travel, the oil platform was unloaded in South Texas, because there were 4 modules being manufactured here. The modules were fitted one by one onto the platform, and once again it was sent to its destination, 130 kilometers away, where it would remain for the next 40 years. After 7 years of hard work, the moment had finally come when Appomattox was to connect with the oil well 30,000 feet below. The ocean floor where Appomattox is floating is 7,400 feet deep. This is so deep that nearly 3 Burj Khalifas could fit inside. However, the oil well to which Appomattox was supposed to connect was surprisingly even deeper at 22,600 feet. The water pressure at this depth is extremely high, making it impossible for a human to enter and then carry out a mission. Therefore, it was decided to use a remotely operated underwater vehicle to connect Appomattox to the oil well opening at the bottom of the ocean. The installation crew, who were installing underwater pipelines from a separate platform, lowered the ROV into the ocean with the help of a crane. This is a very complicated task, requiring the pipeline to land exactly over the oil well opening. The control to perform this task with such precision at 7,400 feet is in the hands of the ROV operator sitting on top, who performs the mission like a video game. Fortunately, this task was accomplished the first time. Now it was time to transfer the pipe from the installation platform to the Appomattox. This process, called riser transfer, involves 4 separate vessels working together. First, a chain was removed from the Appomattox. Then the ROV took this chain and delivered it to another ship. This ship was then pulled by another platform, and finally the Appomattox pulled the chain and placed the pipe on its side. Drilling operations then began. The pipe had to be drilled to the oil well, thousands of feet below the seabed, approximately 22,600 feet below. After months of drilling, the pipe finally reached the oil well. Now it was time to pump the oil. The entire team gathered to witness this moment, and with the push of a button, the oil pump was turned on. The joy on everyone's faces when oil was pumped for the first time from 30,000 feet below was palpable. 7 years of hard work by the workers, engineers, and management had paid off. The flow and quality of the oil were perfect. Today, Appomattox produces 175,000 barrels of oil every day, enough to make enough fuel to power 4 million vehicles a day. Shell believes that Appomattox will continue producing oil at this rate for the next 40 years until 2060. We hope you'll like and share this Inverness TV video. Thank you so much for your kind comments.